It's Easter, and the hard part of celebrating Easter is making it a surprise. Because darn it, everyone's heard of it. And if you're watching this, chances are really good you've got some church background, and that's why you're watching something on a Sunday that's at the end of spring break. So, what am I going to do to make it a surprise for you? Not much, except I want to tell you that the message of Easter has a lot of parts, and the part I want to talk about today is how this message is not just for some people. This message right from the get-go is for everybody. So, you are at the takeout from Community United Methodist Church. And I am Jeremy Williams. I'm the pastor at Community. And you can always find us online at communitychurchumc.org. We love you, we welcome you, we treasure you. It's kind of breaking our hearts right now because we don't get to be in our building for Easter. And this is the second year in a row that we don't get to be in our building. We were for just a few weeks, and then we got kicked out again by COVID. I mean, we kicked ourselves out because a new spread of COVID. Why the new spread? You want a little lecture on this? On how just because you've got your shot or your shots does not mean that you are now free to move about and not wear your mask and have everybody over to your house and pretend there's no coronavirus anymore. There still is, and you could still carry it to somebody else. So stop it. Stay home and watch this. Always here. So enough of that. I want to read you one of the many Bible passages that can get read at Easter. And many of them are the stories of Easter, the stories of resurrection. I do want you to know that one of the four Gospels, there are four Gospels, is Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And Mark, which is the oldest of the four Gospels, if you go to an older Bible, you'll find a nice ending that looks like an Easter ending, except, it's got a story of Jesus rising from the dead and the disciples and so forth figuring it out. But that is added on later. A more recent, more accurate translation will go, yeah, we think this is the end of Mark, and just so you know, because you're disappointed, there's more. The earliest gospel does not have an Easter story, and as much as I would like to tell you this is the most important day of the Christian year, yet it's not. Of course, Mark doesn't have Christmas either, so wow, a whole story introducing people to Jesus, and it doesn't have Christmas or Easter. So it's not necessarily the event that's the big deal. It's not necessarily the event of Jesus rising from the dead that is the huge difference maker for faith. The difference maker is a little bit different from that, and maybe depends on our response. So listen up. I'm going to read to you out of Acts chapter 10. And Acts is not one of the four Gospels. It's the next book, written by the same person who wrote Luke, who might be Luke. And Acts 10, starting in the middle of the chapter, verse 34, goes like this. And Peter began to speak to them. I want to give you context. Peter was a Jew. Jesus was a Jew. Paul was a Jew. James, all of Jesus' disciples, Matthew, all of them, Jews. The thing about Jews, Orthodox Jews at that time, was you would not go in the house of someone who was not a Jew. You just That would make you unclean. You wouldn't be allowed to go worship. You'd have to cleanse yourself, take days and days getting over the fact you walked into a non-Jew's house. You wouldn't eat at the same table with someone who wasn't a Jew. This became a big argument in the early church. And it just went on and on and on. And so it is the original Christian divider. Jew, not Jew. The word that gets used so much in the Bible is Gentile, depending on your translations, which is translating a word that means the nations or the peoples. And that is the root of our word, ethnic. So all these different ethnicities were not okay to the Jews of that time. The Jew had Jewish ethnicity, and everyone else was not one of us, and we don't touch them, we don't marry them, for heaven's sakes, we don't go in their house, we don't eat with them, we don't eat their food. We're different, we're distinct, we're separate. So, at the beginning of the story, in chapter 10, Peter is taking a nap, and he has a vision. And the vision is that, I'll give you the short version, because it's a weird vision. The vision tells him, it's God giving him a message, that if God says people are okay, they're okay. I want you to hear that message. If God says people are okay, they're okay. And God says people are okay. God says there's not a distinction between white people, black people, and brown people, and yellow people. There's not a distinction that God really is interested in. Now, we need to be interested because we need to respect one another's cultures, respect one another's languages, but God values us all the same. And that is the point of this story. So, right after Peter wakes up from his nap with vision, some people come knock on the door. And they are not Jews. And they are representing a guy named Cornelius. And Cornelius is an important guy, inviting Peter to come to his house, which is some miles away. It means when you make this invitation, you're inviting Peter to come and stay in your house, probably for multiple nights. And Peter, before this vision, would have said, oh no, I can't go. You're Gentiles. Clearly, I can see this by the way you dress, the way you talk. You're not my people, and I can't go. The assumption was, if you're a Christian, you're first a Jew. That the only kind of Christian is a Jewish Christian. Now, I think there are people who believe that the only kind of Christian is a white Christian. And there are people who believe that the only kind of Christian is an American Christian, is a liberal Christian, is a conservative Christian. There are people who believe that the divisions that people make between one another matter to God. And this whole story in chapter 10 of Acts is to tell you no. Peter gets off his butt, goes with Cornelius' guys, walks to Cornelius' house, and walks in and discovers there's a whole crowd of people because Cornelius knows he's coming and has brought all his friends over. Now, I just want you to think about that. Someone who is so interested in hearing the Christian message that they fill their house with guests and invite the preacher. I mean, we can't even imagine this in 2021. First of all, you can't fill the house because We'd have to do this outside and keep distance and wear our masks. But even so, he filled his house with visitors, with friends, with neighbors, with colleagues. Everyone came over to Cornelius' house. He's obviously got a big house. They meet in the courtyard of the house. But it's still in the house. And then Peter began to speak to them. And that's verse 34. It begins right there. He says, I truly understand that God shows no partiality. I just want to put that on a t-shirt. Can I get that on a t-shirt? I truly understand that God shows no partiality. God doesn't like my people better than your people. God doesn't like straight people more than gay people. God doesn't like rich people better than poor people. God doesn't like Americans better than Mexicans or better than Somalis. And there is the line that we really need to own. God shows no partiality, and if God shows no partiality, then what the heck reason do I have to show partiality, to take sides, to say these people are better than those people? We have struggled in America in so many ways. We have tried really hard to say that some lives matter than others. It's in our Constitution. Still, that black people, that slaves were worth only 3/5 as much as, other people who matter. Originally, only people who owned land could vote. Only men could vote. We have discovered, haven't we, that men and women are supposed to be equal, and we still haven't got the pay scale even. We have discovered that black people and white people are equal, and yet we still have all kinds of struggles around that, and there is a need to say that black lives do matter. There is a need to say that God does not take sides, and God values these people as much as those people. And even if we have fixed this part of it and fixed that part of it, so that now, middle class, middle-aged, white men feel all hard done by that they don't have special extra privileges anymore. Still, we need to keep working on this simple claim. God shows no partiality, and God brings the same grace to everyone. But let me move on beyond that one verse. Let's move on to verse 35. But in every nation, anyone who fears him and does what is right is acceptable to him. And when it says nation, it means, it's that same word again, ethnic. In every ethnicity, every tribe, and every, what we call nowadays, race. It does not matter. The question that matters to God is, do you fear God, honor God? Are you in awe of God? And do you do what's right? And if you do what's right, that's really all that God is interested in. Just go read the Gospel of Matthew, just go read James, and you'll find this is all that God is interested in. Peter is going to start spelling out the whole message for the people he's talking to. The people who are all of different ethnicity than his own. He says, you know the message he sent to the people of Israel, preaching peace by Jesus Christ. He is Lord of all. That message spread throughout Judea, beginning in Galilee after the baptism that John announced. Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. The message was peace? The message was peace? Yes. Yes. Just like I talked about last week with reconciliation, the message of Jesus is peace. Peace between us and God, and peace between us and one another. Peace between people. Peace on earth among people with whom he is pleased. So the message from Christmas to Easter is the same message, and it is a message of peace. What does Jesus say to his disciples when they are freaked out at seeing him? He says to them, peace. His message is peace. His message is bring people together. His message is unity. His message is reconciliation. His message, his whole point is let's get together. How God anointed Jesus of Nazareth with the Holy Spirit and with power. How he went about doing good and healing all who were oppressed by the devil. For God was with him. We are witnesses to all that he did both in Judea and in Jerusalem. They put him to death by hanging him on a tree. But God raised him on the third day and allowed him to appear, not to all the people, but to us who were chosen by God as witnesses. Not chosen to be better than you. Not chosen. Chosenness doesn't mean that. Chosen means I have a job, and my job is to be a witness. Chosen us as witnesses, and who ate and drank with him after he rose from the dead. You know, that's the kind of the proof they were looking for. Did you really rise from the dead, or are we imagining something? He commanded us to preach to the people and to testify that he is the one ordained by God as judge of the living and of the dead. All the prophets testify about him, that everyone who believes in him receives forgiveness of sins through his name. There has been a surprising amount of talk among scholars about the question of this little preposition. The preposition in question, in. That everyone who believes in him receives forgiveness of sins. And the conversation has a lot of scholars saying that's not how we ought to translate that phrase from the Greek. It's really everyone who believes like him. And that, boy, that changes a mountain of theology. If it says Jesus had a set of beliefs, Jesus had a set of values, Jesus had some truth, Jesus said peace, Jesus said ministry of reconciliation, Jesus said forgiveness, forgive each other, pray for those who persecute you, love your enemies. Jesus said that, which is so contrary to the way we normally are, that we're a little shocked at it, but believe like him, and you too will be a person who believes in peace, who spreads peace, who manufactures peace, who gives it away everywhere you go. Peace, peace, peace. That sounds like a Christmas song, and it is. But it also ought to be an Easter song. It is a song of resurrection, of coming back to life, coming back to reinforce the whole message. Believe like me. Believe in peace. Believe that you ought to be committed to working for peace. Believe that you ought to work for justice. You ought to do as the Lord requires. Love kindness, mercy, and walk with humility before God. On behalf of the whole church everywhere, And I'm not qualified to speak for everyone else, but on behalf of the whole church everywhere, I want to apologize because we keep getting the message wrong. Because we keep thinking as the church that the message is about having a nice time together drinking coffee. Or we keep thinking that the whole message is really about get your theology in line and get it right, and then we'll talk. We keep thinking that the message is all about Methodist or Presbyterian or Catholic or Baptist or Pentecostal or Reformed or Lutheran, and it's not. And we keep thinking that it's all about some magic of saying the right words and the right prayers, or we keep thinking it's really about nothing but being traditional. And that's what a Christian is. No, it's really about peace. And Jesus comes back from death to remind us one more time. Your job, folks, is to go and tell everybody. Your job, folks, is to share the message. Your job is to spread the peace. Happy Easter. May you have peace in this Easter. May you have so much peace that you go and spread that peace and share that peace with lots of other folks. Give it away generously as you can. Give it away in Jesus' name. Thanks for being here. God bless you.